Okay. Hi, Christian.
Hi, Nate.
Thanks for helping me in my project.
Absolutely no problem.
So, did you know that NASA is planning to send people back to the moon in 2024?
um, I have to like a little bit different. So like, well, sort of and sort of not. Of course, I didn't know once you asked me, or after we talked. Before that, I didn't know the time. I know there was talk about going back to the moon and reaching out to Mars, but yeah, I did not have the timeline. Uh,
I,
no, exactly.
do you know the last time we went to the moon?
Um, I would forget. Actually, no, I don't fully remember that.
Would you believe 1972?
Uh, yeah, that, that sounds about right.
Does that surprise you? It was so long ago.
Um, yes and no. I mean, I knew it was about that time. It's, I think it was one of those points where it's like we showed we can do it, and then it seems to be, so what we gotta do next, and why we keep doing that. And so in that sense, yes, it's kind of surprising we lost a bout of that drive, but then it's well like understandable in the sense of yeah, there's not much to gain anymore. There's like the big milestone is done, and now we fall into that big gap of like what to do next.
Yeah, I guess it all depends upon your goal. I mean, are you just trying to sort of check off some boxes, or are you trying to actually kind of develop and push humanity out into the universe?
No, absolutely. I think that is kind of like the part. I feel like the one reason we got to the moon, or I think it was back in the time, it was in a way of like proving that we can do it. That was the big goal there, and that goal was met. I think there wasn't really another next step and the next step. It was like part of a bigger plan. The the, the moon was the goal. That was the final thing of like go there, show everyone that we can do it, and from there on, like the moon has like for in a way like commercial spacecraft and for like space development, satellites became much more interesting. Those things became much more of an important part than actually like further space exploration, or at least as it becomes clear, like the only other possibility, even like just thinking in terms of theoretical possibility, is probably Mars, and that is so far out there that other space exploration was unmanned for the foreseeable future, at least, or for the well, like let's say like for the real project plan at the time.
Yeah, it's nobody. I mean, people complain whenever your robotic spacecraft fails, but like it's not a national tragedy. But then something happens to one of your astronauts, it's a completely different story. So it's a little,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's another point. Yeah, if you, uh, I think that's as well like one of those parts where yeah your unmanned space exploration. But I was as well like thinking of like Voyager and those kinds of, and in the end we then had like the really interesting thing then was Hubble, uh, and to some degree if we um, and it reminded me of, I think one of the most impressive pictures I've seen, like the dark field scan where they pointed at like the darkest spot they could find, and and they took like a long picture and they found like hundreds of galaxies just in this tiny little spot. Um, and it's like giving us a perspective of how huge space is.
Yeah, I know it.
So and
It's. I mean, it's like. I think a lot of it may depend upon your philosophical views about the destiny of humankind. I think a lot of people kind of strongly believe in the concept of the end of the world, um, and
yeah. Well, I mean, we sort of know that in we're not going to be around uh, or it's going to be hard to be like in what is it like at least 1 billion years we know that there's no Earth anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is like the time scale. Um, and even in like in 100 million years, it's very hard to see what Earth looks like. But at least till then, there's a lot of generations and a lot of changes happening. In that sense, we don't really know. But yeah, I think like the people who think of the end of the world usually think more, oh, in my lifetime the end is going to end, or in maybe at least in my in people that I know they will see the end of the world, and that is, at least to my belief, not the case.
But even if you take the time frame of several million years from now, the Earth is no longer habitable or what have you. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be the end of life or the end of humanity. I think we could develop.
Yeah. I mean, I see the possibility. It is probably one of those parts where we will survive in one form or the other, or hopefully will survive. I think like probably a last resort is shooting a bunch of cells and bacteria into space and hope they survive and find something good. I believe there was a Star Trek episode that sort of had that. It was basically the explanation why all humanoids look the same or look very similar. I think there is a place for that where you can say like, well, maybe we all were part of a bigger space civilization that then shot whatever they had into space and started life on other planets.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thought. I mean, one way, I think you were intending that maybe we purposely send cells and viruses and what have you out into the universe, but it's also possible you could have like a huge asteroid hit the Earth, throw up enough material, and that causes kind of life to propagate throughout the universe, microbial life, but in the process destroying life here. It's like kind of.
Oh yeah, that is a real possibility. I mean, that is, as I said, I think I'm always humble, like looking into astronomy and astrophysics and see how in the end little and small Earth is compared to the rest of the universe.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing. I mean, a lot of people talk about survival and expansion of humanity, but what about just the wonder of getting out there and exploring and?
Oh yeah, I mean that is, it is a fascinating thing. I totally agree on that. And I'm a little bit coming from a physics background. The one thing that always gets me, which is like the big problem, if you think that, like if you think the closest sun or next like solar system is already like a couple of light years away, and the next. In our galaxy, but we're like seeing parts from thousands of light years away. That's like and if you think that based on the theory of relativity, we can't travel fast, so it would take us not just like years or actually like way more than years, like way more than the human lifespan to reach any of at least like to leave our galaxy. Kind of makes me sad, which on the other side makes me hope we find a way around that.
Well, even on the hey, you find no breakthrough way around that. I mean, it seems within our grasp to create a huge self-contained ship using like nuclear fusion or nuclear power, and be able to have like a ship that would travel for hundreds of years to just go to the next door, and you have like generations kind of born, live, and die on that ship.
I mean, it is it is a real possibility. I'm curious if that will ever be reality, and I'm not saying it's not. So we will see.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing signing up for your mission yourself. It's another thing to sign up yourself and all your future generations to that mission. They may not be so. There might be a rebellion several generations into it.
Yeah, that's kind of true. Especially like how to build. I think like even building such a project would be a generating project, and then going from there would be like signing up and so.
Well, you know, a lot of the massive cathedrals in Europe, I understand, were generation projects.
Yeah, so that is true. I think in that sense, I do believe that it is possible. I mean, as well, like, well, even interestingly, the pyramids were kind of during the lifetime of a person project, uh, but you're right, like cathedrals in Europe would be multiple generations, or at least like on that time scale. So yeah, it is. I think it's fully possible to construct things on that time scale.
Yeah, it's just finding a way to keep the people engaged and committed. It seems.
Yeah, I think that is maybe the biggest problem. Is we're living in times where you almost get instant gratification. I mean, you do like in a way, where someone said like what makes video games so addicting is this: you play 5 minutes, you solve a level, you level up, and you get excited, and you get the next. But if you have a project where your step is great, if you never see the finished product, that might make things tough. I don't know. Generations become are capable, or I wouldn't say. I mean, we're fully capable. That's maybe the wrong thing. If there is this, how to put it, like, if there's the drive to do that.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's almost like they have to. We were talking about 1984, and the related book is like Brave New World, where they're kind of chosen what their life is going to be like before they're even born. It almost seems like
Yeah.
you end up creating something like that, which has its own downsides.
Yeah, that might be the case. I agree.
So last question. If space travel, like going into orbit or to the moon or to Mars, was as safe and affordable as airline travel, is that something you'd want to do?
I would totally want to do it. I mean, given that it is currently at least cost prohibitive, and I'm not in that, but I would absolutely like if I could say like, hey, you can book for, I don't know, $10,000 to book a nice weekend or on a space station. I would probably do it. Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, thank you so much for the interview. Any closing comments?
No, I think it's a fascinating problem, and yeah, it's in a way like getting back on my. When I was young, I was really fascinated by space and aerospace, and it kind of like diverted to other things, my interest. But it's always nice coming back to think you enjoyed when I was young. So thanks for that in a way.
Well, thank you.